Howdy. This video is mainly directed at the drinker, but I welcome any and all viewers to engage in the discussion. I was a backer of the Rogue Elements movie, and a pretty high tier one at that. I was supposed to have a meeting with the production team, but never received an invite. Here is the proof. I'm backer 642. So consider this my production notes, and I am happy to review them over a call at your convenience. I've been a fan of the Drinker's reviews for a while now, and I have to say I am disappointed that someone that seemed to have a good grasp of good writing and with such a keen eye for the flaws in other films fell victim to some of those same flaws. I am absolutely sick of the trends in modern Hollywood and gaming that are stifling creativity and preventing good stories from seeing the light of day. I'm hoping that the Drinker's foray into this arena will be the start of a high-quality, independent studio where great stories and or fun movies can just be made. That being said, I do have some strong critiques of Rogue Elements. I will go through the film from start to finish and expand upon what I believe could have been done better. This is not to be overly critical for critique's sake, but to help someone that wants to put his money where his mouth is to improve his product if he wishes to continue making it. We begin with the exposition dump, which is totally fine. My minor fix would be to have started with quieter and or slower music since the audience is meant to read the text. A subtle bass thump as each paragraph appears on a darker background would have made the contrast better and added more gravitas to what we, the audience, are supposed to read. This vibe feels more like an OG Call of Duty menu, which could be what the goal was, but I don't believe it works in this format. Now we get into the first scene and the beginning of the problems that I have with some of the writing. The very first line of the film is a cliche. We know that everyone under torture breaks. We do not need the foleyed voice of the interrogator telling us this. A common message of The Drinker to other movies was show, don't tell. We already have the scene set with Anya or Maris being beaten up. If something needed to be said, I believe it should have been something related to why he was torturing her. Where is it? Where is he? Who is your employer? Whatever is relevant to the plot later on is what should have been emphasized here while keeping it mysterious. Silence would have been even better. We only learn later on that she was being held for committing crimes against Russia, but I don't believe any other context than that is given. So why was she being tortured? I have to say, it was not a good first impression. We see her dangling, and then there's the transition to the title sequence without any kind of reference to shepherds or Ryan Drake. This seems incongruous with the context dump we received earlier. We see the person in need of rescue, yes, but that's only one half of the equation. This is where we needed to see Ryan, or even better, his actions. A gunshot to the torturer and his body falling. Sounds of a struggle in the other room with the silhouette of the victor stepping into the doorway. Instead, it transitions to her in a cell and watching someone approach. We don't know if it's someone good or bad, although we come around full circle at the end to know it is Ryan Drake, but it could very well be the interrogator again. We don't have any context. Her standing up could be defiance instead of recognition, if she even recognizes him as a rescuer. This then makes the transition shot to the parking garage disorienting because I don't know if it's the future or the past. I don't know if this is where she ends up or how she got to the cell. We get a location, but not a time. We see that she's on the hunt, but not sure who she is hunting yet, assuming her torturer. It's setting up some misdirection, which isn't bad. I will say, the actor who plays Hastings was a good pick.
Try harder, Ivan.
She also has a decent shooting perch set up, given the circumstances, but I have a whole nother issue with how she is set up. If she knew the location her target was going to be in, how is another issue, and has a scoped, suppressed rifle, she did not need to be in the same building, let alone exposed like she is. She should either be in a car or in another building, but perhaps this is due to inexperience. Props to the armorer, by the way. My only gripe would be the front sight should have been removed. Hastings would have also totally clocked her at this distance, but whatever. Now, if Hastings' job is to extract this asset, he would say whatever he had to in order to get him to comply and in the car. Something along the lines of, we're en route to retrieve them, when he asks about his family. That implies that they are still in harm's way, and then it could be revealed later that this was a lie. This is a minor nitpick, but I also understand if the need to emphasize his family's danger quickly, for the sake of time, outweighs the more realistic approach the CIA handler would take. Not a bad action sequence here, and the lead bad guy is definitely the most believable operator in the whole film. I thought he would have been Ryan Drake. I mean, smooth. 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 Bravo. Now, this could have been the big reveal when Volkov shows up and says he knows where his family is hiding, simultaneously sowing mistrust in the CIA and establishing that the family is indeed in danger. The actor for Volkov is also a very good pick. What the hell happened here? Did aim assist throw her off? Just have the sight on the target and have the other bad guy walk in front of her aim. Like, that was silly. The motorcycle sweep is ridiculously over the top. And this is also an issue I personally have with so many films depicting gunfights. Enemies that should have the drop on the protagonist but have their gun down or are completely incompetent with their firearms. You have to do a better job of setting up a realistic scenario. The guy she hits could see her coming the whole time she was on a motorcycle, but was just, standing there? Then the guy she shoots could have also tracked her the whole time she was riding, but just didn't have his gun up in time. And she one-hands him while getting off a motorcycle when she was having trouble hitting targets with a mounted rifle at distances under 100 yards. This guy was just part of the Smooth Operators gang. But you're telling me he's running around with his gun down during an active firefight. Give me a break. The bad guys get away, and she has her back turned to a bad guy that she knows she only hit with a motorcycle. Taking your sweet time like that is how you get killed by his second pistol he has on his ankle. Now we get to the dual interrogation scene. The scene is not bad itself, but my problem is what happens after. We watch this whole scene, and then we are immediately subjected to it again, but on Ryan's laptop, immediately after we just watched it. For someone that critiques the lack of efficiency in other screenplays, this has to be the most egregious oversight of the whole film. We should have seen one or the other, or just the part that was addressed to Ryan after Volkov beats Hastings to death. There wasn't sufficient time between the two scenes to warrant us hearing it again. Then we have the introduction of Ryan and the team. Very underwhelming. I got the sense that maybe we are supposed to already know who these two are, but how are we supposed to, even if we had read the books? Frost is annoying, but maybe that's on purpose. We know they're operators due to the Russian guy's line mentioning running ops from behind a computer screen, but I just feel like we are missing a scene that would have given us some more context. I'm all for being able to draw inferences from what is being shown and not explicitly told, but I feel like we were left a little in the dark here. Then someone casually rolls up in an SUV and walks over like they're on their way to their accounting job in the office. Now, if this was intentional, as in this is just another day at the office for these people, we needed some kind of establishment that these people were badasses first. There was no context or indication of who he even was and that he was the main character. I would have had some kind of characteristic action he could have performed in the very first scene while silhouetted, like I had mentioned previously, and then had him mimic it here in his actual introduction. Instead, we're just thrust into the scene and only eventually learn, oh, that's Ryan Drake? This guy? The chartered accountant?
I'm not a chartered accountant. Well, you look like one.
And then we're subjected to the scene we just watched 2 minutes ago. Albeit not all of it, but if it was simply to have the name Ryan Drake dropped while his face was in frame, I can see why this choice was made. But I would have drastically cut some of the scene beforehand. We could have had the name divulgence played here instead. And then there's this gem.
Since one of the Baltic states harbor terrorists.
Like, what? Terrorism is a global phenomenon, and there would have been pro-Russian terrorists since the fall of the Soviet Union. Terrorists operate everywhere. This was just a stupid question, and anyone in the agency would have known better. A better line would have just been what the Russian guy said in response, like a sarcastic, "Pro-Russian proxies at it again, eh? I thought she was supposed to be smart."
A drone strike would solve things pretty quickly.
Dietrich, we can't just start
Dietrich.
dropping bombs
That's
on friendly countries.
Never stopped us before.
Oof. Getting a little preachy here, no? Maybe messages can be a good thing after all, as long as the story comes first and they make sense. And her line reads are annoying. They are not natural. There needs to be a dialogue coach.
Just shut the fuck up!
And then the actor playing Ryan blinks way too much to be taken seriously as a badass. At least he delivers this line without blinking.
The only people dying today are those fuckers. All of them.
And again, these are minor gripes now. Then we get to the tactical disaster that is this assault on a heavily guarded compound. The scene before showed MP5s on a bench, but this two-person team is just going in with pistols? Really? Ever heard of force multipliers? 2 is 1 and 1 is none?
In the Navy SEALs, they live by one crucial rule. 2 is 1, 1 is none.
Who was the military consultant for this? Because they should be nowhere near a movie ever again. Or if he stressed the need for a rifle and was ignored for the sake of the plot, then the plot was lost here. And I know you probably wanted this shot of the silhouetted figure, but you're sacrificing a realistic scenario for this shot. They would have been seen. So Ryan and Frost are going in with what I believe are Beretta PX4 Storms suppressed in 9mm. So they would have 17 plus 1 in the chamber. We'll do some counting later. Frost is getting out her laptop with a terminal, but for what? If they have a CCTV system, you can't hack it remotely. Why would they have a security camera system connected to the internet? Especially the Russians, who very famously went back to paper records for their own systems because they want to use the West's internet against them. Maybe they cheaped out and got wireless cameras, but I doubt it. Now, you could have gotten around this by having her find a Cat6 cable and wiring into it, since she sets up shop later somewhere in the building, but her patching in from here is very unlikely, but we will forgive it for the sake of the story. However, what cannot be forgiven is Dietrich's misdirection. It is completely useless. Distracting the gate guard when they are nowhere near the gate serves no purpose. The two guards they end up taking down were not distracted by this. So what was the point? I can forgive the speaking in English when it should be Russian, but another issue that can be resolved with a bigger budget, I believe.
But he speaks Russian like a native.
I was told to come here and ask for Vitaly. Where is he?
Oof. And now the approach. Now, I would have really appreciated a planning sequence on the plane with the blueprints and covering the potential areas of ingress and egress, but not a big deal. It would have helped frame where they all are a bit better, but perhaps the set wasn't cooperative and you had to cut and paste pieces together. However, this approach Ryan takes is abysmal. First, again, why do they not have rifles or even a pistol caliber carbine? It is much easier to shoot targets that are far away when you have at least 3 points of contact and a longer barrel. Because he only has a pistol, he is forced to go into the open instead of engaging these targets from a safer distance. If you wanted a physical altercation, was there really not a quicker, quieter way into the building? Maybe show off some of his patience and skill in maneuvering stealthily and coming up from behind the guard and sticking a knife in his throat. This whole altercation would have been heard and caught on a camera, though I suppose Frost looped the feeds, but we don't exactly know what she did yet. And even suppressed, a subsonic 9mm would put off around 120 to 130 decibels, which is the same as an alarm klaxon or a jet. It's going to draw attention still. Then Frost pulls off this 40-yard headshot, which is doable, but why didn't Ryan do that too and save some trouble? Also, that's 2 shots so far. He tells Dietrich they are in, but again, who is he distracting? The gate guard seemed to be nowhere near where they were, but again, we have no frame of reference since there wasn't a planning stage, even though blueprints were specifically requested. Now, Frost rightly tells Ryan off for his recklessness in handling that guard, so I suppose that was intentional. Still, I think he should have gotten excessive with a knife after he was dead if you were trying to portray a vengeful rage. Ryan's moves just seemed sloppy. I have personal experience with how quiet and deadly a former SAS operative can be. Fortunately, only in a scenario paintball game, and he did not even have a gun. And this is the opposite of what he would have done. And then his response to her, rightly justified scolding, is to behave like a 14-year-old that just got told off by his mom. Is he not the team leader? He should have either doubled down with a, he's down, and as long as you were doing your job, there is no problem. Or a conciliatory, heard Bravo, it's out of my system. His reaction is not befitting of an elite military operative. These are men that ooze confidence and competence. His sheesh, okay, mom, is totally out of character because any competent operative would recognize how reckless his approach was. This place is a fucking maze. As he's walking down a straight hallway along the edge of the building, have him rounding a hallway corner or something. And Frost setting up her laptop in an open area and facing a wall. Nope. Get stabbed in the back. The looped video Volkov saw may have been a bit too subtle, but I see what you did. And now here we are establishing that Volkov has a superior, most likely Russian intelligence, which is fine. I find it funny, though, that Drake's name is also dropped, but with the lead Estonian or Russian or apparently American operator in the frame smirking, as if indicating that he should have been Drake, which honestly he should have been, at least from an operations perspective. I guess he didn't have the acting chops.
Not even trying.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. Either way, so is this character supposed to be a mercenary? Does it matter? Is there a larger conspiracy at play? I guess that's something we will have to find out in another film or TV episode, I suppose, but I can forgive that for the sake of this film. Also, again, maybe I am missing context by not having read the books, but why would bringing in Drake bring in Anya? She seems to be on a revenge kick against Volkov already. Isn't that who she was trying to kill earlier? How would she know Drake was showing up in Estonia? Why would she care? Just because he saved her? It doesn't make sense to me, but again, perhaps I am missing context. It's something that definitely should have been elucidated in this movie at some point, though. Now, jumping ahead a bit, this is probably the best scene. However, I would have done some slightly different editing, because there is a great setup with the Mercs line and transition, but then it's slowed down by Ryan rolling up to the door and seeing all the guards and having his conversation. Here's how I would have edited the scene.
You have the target?
We are close. We should have him by tonight.
Talk is cheap, Volkov. This operation is not. My generosity and my patience are very thin.
Listen to me, Victor. Fedorov brought us Drake, and Drake will bring us her. I swear it.
Then pray my faith in you was not misplaced. Otherwise, you and your American lapdogs will be hunted along with her.
Shit. Bravo, I found a target. I count 5 guys inside that room.
God damn it. Alpha, what the fuck are you doing in there? We're losing night cover.
He'll be going after Fedorov.
He's one man. The guys can handle him.
Going loud.
Then, in this scene, it's hard to tell if some bullets were reused as the camera jumped, but I count 15 rounds fired, which would be just enough to leave at least one in the chamber so the slide would cycle. Good job. Should have had him reload here, though. And then another critique I would have of Ryan's technique is, why doesn't he have any utility as part of his kit? He has no flashbangs, no smoke, no other means of distraction. What is the third member of his team doing? This is where Dietrich could have used a drone to drop a bomb or create some kind of distraction elsewhere. Instead, he just bursts through a doorway facing 5 armed men. He might have gotten 2 or even 3 if he was good, but the more than likely scenario would be that he would have gotten shot here. Now, how this guy isn't Drake, I have no idea. Another critique I have of the gear is why they aren't wearing plates. They're going up against men with rifles. They should have better armor. Now, this is another serious issue. If this man has made it clear that he has never used a firearm, it is a liability to give someone like this a firearm. So Ryan would not do it. It also does not even become relevant later in the film. He just sort of disappears and then is found later by Frost. If you had him shoot a bad guy, then maybe this would have been necessary setup. It's obvious that you just wanted to shoehorn this line in.
Nazis one of these.
No, I don't believe in guns.
You better start, because the people in here do.
But it's different when it's your message, isn't it? The way it was executed seems like you are talking down to people who, very reasonably, don't want guns to have to be a factor in their day-to-day lives. I have to say, after having spent some time in Europe, it was nice to not have to worry that a madman with a legally acquired AR-15 wasn't going to shoot up the restaurant or grocery store I was at. I don't know how many mass shootings occur in Scotland, but I live in America.
Yeah, this is America. Guns in my area. I got the strap. I gotta carry 'em.
Firearms are a part of my day-to-day life. I carry one every day. And even though I agree with the sentiment that you're presenting, a normal person, when thrust into this life or death situation, isn't going to behave like this. This guy is coded as some kind of scientist, or at least someone smart, isn't he? Here's how I think it could have gone.
Nazis one of these.
I never have before, but I believe the situation demands quick study. Good man. On anything that isn't me, line the front dot up between the rear two posts and pull the trigger. Just as fast, and it was a better lesson without the condescension. Okay, so he gets shot in the shoulder region of his vest by a pistol round, which is very survivable. And he didn't just shrug it off, which is good. Getting hit with even a pistol round to a vest is like getting hit with a 90-mile-per-hour fastball. Okay, standard bad guy face-off from behind cover here. And this is where you lose me. He would have just killed her. But let's say he was wanting to have some fun, or they stumbled into each other and disarmed each other. Because also, why doesn't he have his rifle? He's hunting Ryan Drake and his team. This is not how warriors operate. They don't leave opportunities. They don't fight fair. They go for the fastest win possible. Their ethos is, if you find yourself in a fair fight, you did not plan your mission properly. So to fix this scene, I would have had him moving through a hallway with his rifle, and she rounds the corner at the same time he does, and she shoots his AK that for some reason doesn't have a sling on, or maybe she shoots the sling and it falls, and then he knocks the pistol out of her hand. Then we can pick up the fight from there. So this starts out how it would, with him absolutely dominating her. He's bigger, stronger, faster, and probably more well-trained. Then in the standoff scene between Ryan and Volkov, Ryan's actor delivers his line, then reacts like he can't even believe what he just said. Like, what is going on here? Now back to the fight. A baton. Who the fuck chose a baton for this fight? Anything would be better than a baton. The order goes rifle, which they didn't have, pistol sidearm, then knife. If you were going to have less lethal options, mace or a taser would be better than a baton. A woman is already physically weaker than a man, so she's going to choose the weapon that requires the most force to be effective. Holy shit. Is this character supposed to be smart or stupid? He somehow gets a hit on the guy, but what did it do? Nothing. She gets disarmed again. A squirt of mace from where she was standing would have tipped the fight in her favor instantly. Why did neither of them pull the trigger here? This was silly. Oh, now she pulls the knife. Finally. Now, Anya's assault here is practically textbook. She accurately diagnoses where their power and communications are and takes them out. She uses distraction. And then other than rolling on the ground, she pretty quickly dispatches these bad guys. Good job here, Anya. Again, people with their guns down. Now here, these are definitely some lethal looking strikes from the actress. Unfortunately, and most probably, she gets disarmed and has her knife turned against her. This is where she would be dead. However, thanks to the arrogance of the attacker, he's leaving an opening for her to knee him in the nuts, even though he would have gotten into a full mount position to prevent that, but whatever. And then she is rescued by Dietrich, who has been absolutely useless up until this point. I also take real issue with this "I'm not even trying" line. First, this is not the ethos of a warrior like this, like I mentioned before, and it could also have been handled physically, again, by showing us instead of telling us that he isn't even trying. His strikes could have been slower. He could have looked bored, then amused at her struggling. He could have been slapping her around. He could have toyed with her in a bunch of different ways to show us that she is not a threat to him. Yep, another henchman with his gun down. Oh, look at that. More henchmen with their guns down, who even had forewarning because of a gunshot in that area. Apparently only protagonists can move with their guns at the ready. This guy at least had his gun up and probably had all the time in the world to get some shots off, but plot armor is the best armor. Ah, yes, 2 more unsuspecting bad guys running towards gunfire without their weapons ready. Ugh. Why was there a guy with an RPG in the first place? There is no armor out there. Oh, never mind. Yes, I am going to run up along the only spot this guy could be hiding so I can be within arm's length. Brilliant. Good disarm here, and then that's basically it. Anya shows up and killed the man who tortured her, preventing Ryan from learning more about what? I'm not really sure. I suppose that would be the main arc of a TV show if that is where this is going, since the public version of this video is titled TV Series Proof of Concept. I thought this was supposed to be a short film. We then end at the beginning where the silhouetted figure is revealed to be Ryan, but the impact seems to fall short for the reasons I stated earlier in the video. All in all, it's a decent start to a project that has potential. The reason I am so critical and nitpicky about things is because I want this to succeed. I wanted to do away with the cliches and tropes so prevalent in modern TV and movies, and I especially want action scenes that are visceral and realistic. Anyway, I hope this critique helps because I am doing it from a place of passion and bear no ill will at all. I support what you're doing, and I would like you to succeed, if only for the reason I have something good to watch soon. Take care.